the podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey, it's the Juice on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com alongside Dr. Mike Gustafson. I'm Aaron Dickens. We're joining you today from the Overton Hotel and Conference Center. Would love to get your thoughts and comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. First, though, some headlines brought to you by our friends at Specs Wine, Spirits, and Finer Foods. Two convenient locations here in town. You have the 4th Street and the West Loop behind the Whataburger, and also 69th Street and Slide Road. The Texas Rangers will take on the Cleveland Guardians tonight. First pitch 7:05 from Globe Life Field. Rangers won yesterday over the Angels 5-3, completing a series victory there for Texas. No quarterback dilemma for Mike McCarthy after Jerry Jones said on Thursday that he hoped Cooper Rush would play so well that the Cowboys would have to make a decision to make once Dak Prescott is healthy enough to return from his injury. McCarthy said this: there's no quarterback controversy. Dak is our starter. No real surprise, but I think the real surprise there, Gus, was that Jerry kind of opened that door anyways.
I mean, I don't know that there's an order has an owner that takes such a lead role with the media any more so than him.
Right.
I've never been a big fan of that deal, his operation and all of it, but he owns the team, so he can do what he wants. But you know, that the guy is sought after on Sundays after every game is just amazing to me.
The U.S. men's national soccer team had a bit of a humbling loss today in Germany, in Dusseldorf. They lost 2-0 to Japan. Not great. Of course, probably expect to be a bit better there, but no, lost 2-0. You too can join the program. Would love to hear from you today on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at doublet973.com. The Juice brought to you by our friends at Specs Wine, Spirits, and Finer Foods. This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Somebody says, Bevo likes 2 heifers, 1 feedlot. Woohoo, let's get this party started. All right. Tomorrow from Hudson Card, the quarterback for the Longhorns, because I have some thoughts.
No, not really. My thoughts are, a little more just play a big role. Talking about a guy that's a number 12 NFL prospect on one of the lists that we talked about here in the preseason, the highest rated NFL prospect in the Big 12. If I was going on the road early in the year, first road game, hostile environment, however you want to look at it, it would be nice to be able to lean on a running game with a guy like him. And so that's what I expect from them, that he'll play probably 2 really good receivers, big tight end, and some inexperience in the line. So if the Red Raiders are hoping to take advantage of anything, maybe it is that offensive line. Maybe there's some pre-snap problems and noise-related things that just come with the first road game. We shall find out here in about 24 hours.
This time last year, I mean, not to the date, but in terms of the game, we all remember that Texas put 70 up on the Red Raiders. And that was a defense that at the end of the year I think most of us felt good about in terms of kind of their overall performance. But that wasn't the case last year in Austin. Longhorns scored 14 points in the first quarter, 28 in the second, 21 in the third, and then took their foot off the gas in the fourth, scoring just the 1 touchdown. Casey Thompson, the quarterback that day for Texas, 18 of 23, 300 yards, 303 to be precise, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. You had a $137 from Bijan Robinson. Roshan Johnson had 64 yards on 13 carries. He scored 2 touchdowns. they could really do no wrong there.
No,
I mean,
no.
they scored at will.
No.
They humbled your defense, and that was a defense again that, outside of that game and maybe one other, played pretty well generally. And I bring all that up to say that, I mean, I realize he's not been, the full-time starter for a while. I mean, now obviously in relief of Quinn Ewers. You know how many touchdowns Hudson Cards has thrown as a quarterback at Texas?
I do not.
In his career. He's played in 12 games.
Okay.
Right? And he's not started all of them,
right,
clearly.
Right.
He's not even started most of them. There have been basically 5 to 6 games where he's played a fairly prominent role, it seems like.
So akin to Donovan Smith in that regard, in terms of number of games played versus number of games started. Yeah.
Generally good comparison. I don't know that it's precisely like, Red Delicious Apple versus Red Delicious Apple.
Yeah.
But it's certainly fruit and fruit.
Yep.
6 touchdown passes. Now, to his credit, and certainly you would love for Donovan Smith to be able to say this, only 1 interception. So in the 136 attempts that he's made in his 12 games, only the 1 to the other team, but just 6 touchdowns. I mean, he threw his first one of the season last week against Texas. Now, granted, it's going to be hard to throw a touchdown pass against the Alabama Crimson Tide, clearly. So I'm not dinging him there. But it just kind of – I'm saying all this to illustrate he has not just been like throwing it around the yard and piling up huge numbers, when the opportunity has been there. Granted, sample size is small and limited, starting experience. I'm sure the capability is there.
Oh, sure.
Maybe the opportunity hasn't been there, but this isn't someone that's going into this game with like this pedigree of 300-yard, 3-touchdown passing performances.
Yeah, I agree. And wouldn't you flip it around on the other side? And if you're two guys in Austin doing this talk show, the number that you're feasting your eyes on is the interceptions column for Donovan Smith, wouldn't you say? Especially over the last 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's the red meat there for him.
Yeah, I mean, because if Donovan Smith turns the ball over twice or more, I don't think that you have a chance to win this game. I think that you have to be. I don't know that you have to be perfect, but you need to play better than you have on offense at any point this season, given the opponent, the competition level, and while I expect, I think that you'll be much better defensively this year against them than you were last year. Granted, that's a low bar.
It's a more capable
if
group.
they go up 10 points, man, that seems like 40 almost.
Yeah.
With this offensive line, the turnover issues you've had on offense, I'd love to be proven wrong. But that's just kind of how it's going to feel to me tomorrow. If they go up by, a touchdown and a field goal or something, it's going to feel pretty insurmountable.
Yep. I don't think the scenario is ideal for the Red Raiders to play big from behind. Play 21 points down at half or any sort of. This team isn't built in the same way that we would have talked about the junior and senior led Graham Harrell clubs that were veteran. That could be behind 28 points in a bowl game, 31 points in a bowl game, and still be composed. I don't know that that's where this team is yet. Sometimes it takes a good comeback for a team to know, hey, we can do this. And the one time they've had to come back, I guess, at home, the back's against the wall, 50 seconds left, needing 3 points to tie, they delivered in a big way. But, it's just that's not what we're really talking about here. We're talking about the scenario you're presenting, down 10 points. Just not ideal. Not the position to want to put a young quarterback in who I don't know if he's struggling with his confidence or not, but there's his backup this week is taking reps with the ones, right? So if there was ever a time that he would look over his shoulder, it's probably this week.
More Tech Talk next.
It's every Red Raiders' favorite podcast. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon. It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Dr. Mike Gustafson. I'm Aaron Dickens. We're joining you from the Overton Hotel and Conference Center, the official hotel of Texas Tech Athletics and the Texas Tech Alumni Association. This is the spot to be tomorrow. They'll have Reckamalley before the game, after the game. Come hang out, play some games, drink some cold beers. They have a cash bar. Enjoy some of their excellent game day food offerings and hang out with your friends. And this is not limited to folks that are staying at the Overton. So if you're, a Lubbock local and want to come hang out and have some fun before the game, stop on by the Overton and have some fun at Reckamalley. We were talking about the importance of kind of staying with Texas tomorrow, right? And not, whether it's through turnovers or bad special teams play or bad defensive play, not falling into an early hole. And I think really you can kind of boil all that down, Gus, into, hey, stay on schedule, you know? And that was something that they were not able to do at all, really, last weekend in Raleigh. And by on schedule, right, we mean, hey, don't start a drive 1st and 10 and then end up facing a 2nd and 13 because your opening play, you either take a sack or you get tackled behind the line of scrimmage. Yeah. And, I mean, I think that it's very Kansas 3-0, right? Having a lot of success, surprising amount of success, right? Texas Tech, meanwhile, 2-1, not bad, but certainly there are some concerns about the offense. Fair?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
In terms of production, we know the offensive line, et cetera. Well, I think this kind of tells the tale here. First down rushing attempts. Kansas, through 3 games, has run the ball on first down 57 times. They've averaged 7.6 yards per carry on those first down runs. They've got a long of 80 in there. They've run for 10 or more 10 times. They've been very successful. They've been able to stay ahead of schedule.
Yeah,
and so, hey, 2nd and 6 is a nice place to be. 2nd and 5, way better than 2nd and 12. The Red Raiders, meanwhile, spoiler alert, not nearly as good. Sorry, I didn't mean to get you down there. But first down runs, 48 rushing attempts, averaging about 3.25.
Right.
With 7 runs of 10 yards or more. So on average, when the Jayhawks and the Red Raiders are running the ball, you're picking up about 3 yards. They're picking up about 7 or 8 on first down.
Yeah, that's the Jayhawks have been an explosive bunch. Really, in many ways, the talk of the Big 12. I think the Coach McGuire referenced this last night. There was double-digit second and I think he said 12, 14, 16 times. I don't remember what it was. But in last week's game, it was 2nd and 11 or more. I mean, like a dozen times or whatever the number was. Way too many. Mm-hmm. And not always a quarterback sack. I mean, we're talking about just what you said, a run getting stuffed and it's 2nd and 12. Earlier this week we talked about somebody texted me after just a, snap, handed to Sir Roderick, blown up for -3. Somebody texted me, what kind of a play call was that? Like, well, it's like a handoff on 1st and 10. I mean, it's something you kind of do.
Yeah, it's something you get in 7th grade football.
Right.
Yeah,
and so let's talk about what was going on there. It's not always about tricking somebody. It's about executing and winning. Now we talked about the O-line play last week. It felt like their pass protection was better last week than what it was against Houston 2 weeks ago.
Sure.
So certainly an area of improvement. But enough in that running game to keep a defense honest. And what I mean by that is just to prevent a defense from going, hey, let's just drop 8. They're not going to run. We stick 6 DBs in there, play this game really light. 5 dudes in the box. We can handle this. We can handle that group with a light box. and really create problems for any quarterback, much less a freshman quarterback, right? I'm not talking about it needs to be 50-50 or anything. That conversation is hashed out all the time on the web, and that dynamic has certainly changed from the way the game of football was played when I was a kid. But we're talking about doing something to keep a defense honest and forcing them to get 6 or 7 guys in the box, bring a safety up, get some man coverage, whatever it is that you do. You know that Texas wants to do that so that they can unload some of that skill, some of those high-end receivers, some of that speed loose into a single coverage scenario. I mean, that's how this thing works.
It's really very simple, right? I mean, we can talk about and route concepts, et cetera, but it boils down to what you just said, right? Can they stop your run game without committing, 6 or 7 players or 8 into the box? And if they can, you're in trouble, man. Like, it doesn't matter what quarterback you have back there either.
Right.
It doesn't help when you have one that seems to be fairly prone to interceptions at this point in his career. But, yeah, I mean, you need to get something out of that run game. Otherwise, man, they're just going to feast when it's 2nd and 12, right, 2nd and 11. It's not – I mean, that's a problem. And if it doesn't get better, I think that's your ceiling this year.
Yeah, I mean, my analogies often go back to baseball, as you know. That's
right.
A game I'm fairly intimate with, and it's the same way as saying a pitcher pitching behind in the count, Aaron. If the count's always 3-1, that dude's getting his head beat in. If the count's 0-2, he's probably having a lot of success. And that's in essence what we're talking about, controlling some aspect of the game to force the other team to stay honest in whatever way that is. It's hard to lean on just one thing all day long. Somebody's going to make an adjustment.
This in the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Where did Tech mess up with recruiting offensive linemen? I mean, it's been the last 4 or 5 years, and the ones that you have recruited, you've missed on some that you've recruited have not panned out the way that you would have hoped. You've had some unfortunate injuries with others, and that's just kind of the way that it goes. If you go back and look at Mike Leach's offensive line recruiting classes, it's kind of funny in that it's almost every other year it was a hit. So you would go 1 year and sign 3 guys or so, and they were all really, really good. They ended up being really, really good players for you. And then the next year you'd sign 3 or 4, and they'd all be off the team by their junior year. It's just purely coincidental, but still it's kind of funny how that worked out.
I think this was an area of need that was identified quickly by Coach McGuire and his staff, because it was probably the group that was addressed the most directly through the portal, right? Now, the key guy, the key acquisition and all that, Cole Spencer, brought in from Western Kentucky. Tech puts him out there as the watch list nominee for the Outland Trophy back in July. I mean, that was the guy that we're really leaning on to come in and be impactful. Recovering from knee surgery and going to sit out this year. We'll still have the eligibility next year. But so one of the 2 transfers that was brought in to really address a need this year, not going to be an impact this year due to injury or due to a previous injury and a rehab. And the other one, Briggs, brought in from University of New Mexico, essentially lost the competition at center. Now, he adds depth, and that certainly helps, and that was a big problem as well. But this is the good news about this group is a lot of it's coming back next year, and they are signing. They're signing bodies, and so we're going to have a group that's a year older for the most part, and that'll help for sure.
And unfortunately, O-line and D-line are the 2 position groups that it doesn't matter how many you sign right away. It takes some time. You got to let the cake bake, so to speak, to use Chuck Heinzism.
Yeah, physical development's a big part of that. Most of the time, guys don't come in Lake ready. Now, Daderay's playing a bunch as a true freshman this year on the defensive line, but yeah, it's not something you can speed up in the way that you can go out and get an impact receiver or running back and fix something in a hurry.
More Tech Talk next.
It's every Red Raiders' favorite podcast. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon. It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com alongside Mike Gustafson. I'm Aaron Dickens. We're joining you as we do every Friday before home Texas Tech football games at the Overton Hotel and Conference Center, 2322 Mac Davis Lane. This is the place to be tomorrow, both before and after the game. They'll have Reckamalley beginning 3 hours before kickoff, so around 11:30 a.m. tomorrow, where you can enjoy live music, patio games. They'll have a cash bar. You can order some of your favorite game day food items. Much, much more here. And then even better, the fun continues after the game. So whether you're celebrating a big victory or wanting to drown your sorrows in some cold beer, they've got you covered either way here. And, again, you don't have to be staying here in order to enjoy Reckamalley. If you are a local, if you are staying here, if you're staying at another property, whatever, come to Reckamalley, hang out, have a good time here. Overton Hotel and Conference Center, 2322 Mac Davis Lane. We get this on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. From T-Money 806, if I was Nebraska, I would go for Kansas's coach, or simply wait until Baker gets Matt Rhule fired and snap him up.
Well, I don't think those are out of the question. I mean, and the fact that Leipold has done as well as he has as quickly, and it has played well. His, culturally, there's probably not a ton of difference when we were talking about the Great Plains. We're talking about old Big 8 schools, geographically similar climate. I mean, there's some similarities to those two jobs. Now, the scale of Kansas football to Nebraska football historically hasn't been there, but what Leipold's done has really, really turned some heads, as they will play tomorrow in front of a sold-out stadium. And this time, last year they were playing in front of, looked like about 15,000?
Right.
Yeah, so there's no doubt that what he's done. And that dude has won everywhere he has been. And so there's a lot to like about him, no doubt.
I think that I would probably prefer Leipold over anybody if I'm Nebraska.
Yeah.
Matt Rhule terrifies me. I don't know how repeatable his success is. Right? I mean, he was okay at Temple, which is hard to do, right? Nothing, not taking anything away from the job that he did there. And then he had success at Baylor. But it wasn't like sustained success, right? I mean, it was basically success, and then I'm going to go coach in the NFL, right? And then with Aranda, too, is he an excellent recruiter, right? Is he the level of recruiter that could go to Lincoln and bring in enough players to compete with Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State and Wisconsin? And I don't know. Right, it's a lot easier in Texas. You're swimming in quality high school football players. Leipold, as you said, has won everywhere he's been,
and he's not green. I mean, the guy's in his 50s. I mean, he's a veteran dude.
I mean, if he was a chef, he could go into any kitchen, right, in Lubbock, in Midland, in Austin, and make you something delicious. Like he's won at D3, he's won at Buffalo, he's won at Kansas. He could win at Nebraska.
Right. And the D3 was in Wisconsin, to your point.
So, I would go with him. It might not be like the sexiest hire. There might be some folks at Nebraska that kind of turn their nose up at the idea, the mere suggestion of, we're not going to hire the Kansas coach. Come on, we're Nebraska, right? He would win. I don't know about the other two. And, again, I like Aranda. That's not a shot. It's just sometimes it's about fit, And Aranda seems like a very good fit at Baylor. This on the chat line, somebody says Jamie Chadwell won't be at Coastal Carolina much longer.
And that may be the kind of guy that takes the Auburn job right there. In that part of the country, up-and-comer like he is. Now, the Auburn job is fraught. No athletic director, just the constant turmoil. But I'm sure Auburn's about to overpay. And right now,
well, they'll have to.
Yeah, exactly. Because nobody's taking that job and going, sure, give me 4 years. If I can't turn this around in 4 years, the person that is going to be able to twist the Auburn administration's arm into a longer deal just because of the mess they are right now.
Will have to overpay. It's like,
right.
I mean, please let me jump into this pit of vipers. I can't wait. That sounds like so much fun.
Right. No administrative alignment. A coach that's about to get fired after 2 years, an AD that's been fired after
Already
4
fired.
or 5.
Yeah,
that's gone after 4 or 5. No telling what that scenario will be like. And boy, if I'm the a head coach interviewing for that job or a big-time candidate for that job, I'm not backing off of any of the things I'm asking for.
Get this in the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Bro, Leipold has barely been at Kansas. I wouldn't say he's won at Kansas any more than Rhule won at Baylor or Aranda has won. I understand where you're coming from, bro. But I think perspective, like context matters here, right? He's 3-0 at Kansas. That counts as winning. Like he's already hit the over for their season win total. It was 2.5 in Las Vegas. If you bet the over on Kansas, you're already cashing in September, right? And I mean, a bowl game seems very realistic here. That might as well be a playoff berth in terms of accomplishments.
Yeah, no argument. I mean, that program's been a laughing stock. Is he about to do there what Snyder did at K-State? Now, it was a younger Snyder that took over at K-State, but took a program that has been really, really bad for a long time and gave it credibility.
You know what will be interesting is, and I think also somewhat telling, is because the playbook here, right, and we've seen this everywhere, different sports, whatever. Hey, there's going to be an extension announced very quickly. They're going to lock him up, right?
Juice that ball.
And if that isn't announced, you wonder, okay, well, is he pulling a Chris Beard? Is it on his desk waiting for his signature and he's just kind of sitting there? Right? Because if that's the case, then you kind of wonder, all right, well, maybe he does kind of have some positive thoughts about maybe going to Nebraska.
Yeah, an exit plan.
We have a question on the Yates Flooring Center chat line from T-Bone about the Red Raider baseball team. We'll get to that coming up in a few minutes. We only have about a minute left or so before the break. I don't want to rush Gus through that question. We will find out what is good coming up. Of course, we do have a pair of tickets to give away to Saturday's Texas Tech and Texas game. We will let you know when those are available. Just the one pair. No hoops, no trivia question, just about kind of showing up and snagging them. We're joining you today from the Overton Hotel and Conference Center, the official home, the official hotel of Texas Tech Athletics and the Texas Tech Alumni Association, where tomorrow they'll be hosting Reckham Alley, which is a free in. Enjoy some live music, some patio games, get a cold beer from the cab. Hours before kickoff tomorrow, so around 11:30, and then the fun will continue after the game as well. That's Reckham Alley at the Overton. More Tech Talk next.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey, it's the Juice on Double T 97.3, Double T 97.3.com, and the Double T 97.3 mobile app presented by Happy State Bank with Mike Gustafson. I'm Aaron Dickens. Time for some headlines. Texas Rangers back in action tonight, hosting the Cleveland Guardians at Globe Life Field. First pitch, 7:05 p.m. Rangers fresh off of a series victory over the Los Angeles Angels, including a 5-3 win yesterday. Speaking of yesterday, owner and GM of the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, said that he hoped the Cooper Rush would play so well that the Cowboys would have a decision to make once Dak Prescott is healthy enough to return from his thumb injury. But head coach Mike McCarthy doused a bunch of cold water on that potential drama flame by saying today, quote, "There is no quarterback controversy. Dak is our starter." The U.S. men's national soccer in a friendly against Japan, they lost 2-0 in Dusseldorf. You ever been to Dusseldorf?
That would be a no.
No?
I'm not opposed to it. Just never been.
Never
been to Europe. Never even been to Europe. So
it's nice this time of year.
You can paint with a broad brush. You can ask that question over and over and over again with no mystery about. What about London? Have you ever been to London? Nope. Have you ever been to Stockholm? Nope.
Barcelona?
Nope.
Rome?
Nope. Let me think. No.
Stockholm?
No.
Brussels?
You're good.
Okay.
You're good.
I'll stop here.
It's all over.
Love to get your thoughts and comments today on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at doublet973.com. The Juice is brought to you by our good friends at Specs Wine, Spirits, and Finer Foods. 2 convenient locations here in Lubbock, 4th Street and the West Loop behind the Whataburger. And also Slide Road and 69th Street. And if you can't get out and about today, you can always order online at specsonline.com. 7-point spread seem about right to you for tomorrow's game?
Yeah, it started at 5, right? Dipped down to 4. Wasn't it in the 4 and 5, 5.5 range when we started the week?
I believe that's correct.
Yeah. The Sharps coming in heavy on the Longhorns, huh?
Inspired effort tomorrow, fingers crossed, especially from the O-line.
Yeah, and I would think it's a team that certainly didn't like the way they performed last week in Raleigh, and probably didn't really love the second half of the Houston game. You know, it hadn't been a ball, though to their credit, they found a way to win that Houston game. And so, you know, coming back home, sell out. There's a lot of reasons why if an effort in a game would be tightened up, it's a lot of that. There's not a false sense of confidence floating around out there. There's a bunch of dudes that have probably had their head down going, hey, we got to fix this. You know, as a group, probably all the way across the entire operation, you know, coaches included. And that's not me dogging on anybody or pointing fingers, but just after a week like last weekend, you know, there can be a checkpoint there. That they felt good about their competitiveness and the fact that they really turned, you know, didn't play well, especially all the things that we sort of rehashed through the week, and yet they were in that game on the road, front of a sellout, evening kickoff, top 15 team. You know, a lot of reasons that game could have been 41-10, and instead it was a game that they were in to the end.
There was a report out there on Twitter, and this was not from like a Brett Murphy type or a Pete Thamel. This was 3 or 4 steps below that. But a report out there from a Baylor podcast that Nebraska is going to, they said, quote, give the kitchen sink. Not quite the best use of that. But anyways, going to throw the kitchen sink at Dave Aranda to be the next head coach in Nebraska. How would you feel about Aranda at Nebraska?
Well, I think it'd be a solid hire for him. Yeah, I mean, maybe a little higher ceiling there. Again, this is one of the one of the cruel realities of this Big Ten media rights deal is there's going to be a separation in terms of the ability to pay coaches more, probably get in to make bigger mistakes. You know, but SEC and Big Ten money, you know, they'll probably be throwing the 7-year, $70 million contracts around, if not longer. And if I was Dave Aranda at Baylor, I mean, my hunch is that a guy that probably feels like he's pretty well set up at a job that it likes, and his contract's in a pretty good situation. Nebraska's going to, I would imagine, pay dearly to hire him, as opposed to going out and getting somebody from a group of 5 and, trying to. Nebraska's not trying to get the next Leipold. Well, they would love to get the next Lance Leipold, but they're not. I don't. If he's going to make a mistake, I think he's going to make a mistake picking from the top of the list.
So what? I don't know Dave Aranda, right? Yeah. My conclusions, thoughts, interpretations, all that stuff is purely from a distance with him. He's kind of a different guy.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way, right? But he's not. When you think in your head of kind of like the prototypical college football coach, it probably looks a lot more like Joe McGuire.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of energy and all that kind of stuff, than Aranda.
Mm-hmm.
Aranda is very, and that doesn't say there's one right or wrong answer. Clearly, he's been very successful there. I get why Nebraska would be very interested. Makes total sense on their part. But he is very kind of cerebral. I think back to the game, I think it was against Oklahoma in Waco last year, I think, or maybe 2 years ago, when they win in very dramatic fashion. There are players kind of all over the field. He's asked, hey, why did you make this kind of coaching decision at this time? And he breaks down like a really in-depth. And it was his emotion level, at least visibly, was the same as it would have been had you asked him on Tuesday, hey, what did you have for dinner? It was very just like it thoroughly impressed me. I'm a big fan of what he can do. I just don't know if he would embrace the pressure and the attention that would come with that job. Not that he couldn't handle it. This is not some kind of like underhanded dig at Aranda. I like Dave Aranda.
Sure.
But I think he's also very kind of self-aware of what he wants and what he doesn't want. And at a place like Waco, clearly you can win. All right, clearly you can win the Big 12. And now we know that means you can get into the playoff eventually.
12 teams, yeah.
But you don't have just the eyes of everybody in the state burning a hole in your head if you lose a game.
Two things in response to that. First one will probably come sort of random, but as you and I get the feel for each other, it's not going to be surprised by where I'm coming with this. Dave Aranda reminds me of a lot of especially the California-based college baseball coaches that I'm around. Very thoughtful, kind of reserved. Of course, baseball is a game that's much more even keel. And Aranda's the first football guy, college football. And again, I'm like you. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but just, that sort of present things in this sort of even keel way. I'm like, man, he reminds me. Of course, Dave Aranda is from California, I believe. He's a California native and grew up there. And so that may be part of what's influencing me there. But back to you and your assessment of the way the state of Nebraska works, that's sort of the way I would describe Tom Osborne. Dave, not minus the California deal, but just mega even keel. That was Tom Osborne. And, I think that there's probably an older crowd and probably a moneyed crowd, that probably longs for those days. So there may be that'll be interesting because remember who Trev Alberts played for when he was there, Tom Osborne. So I think there's a comp there. Doesn't mean that it's going to be right or wrong or it's going to work or not, but it may speak to what Trev Alberts sees in his next big hire or his first big hire.
More Tech Talk next.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon. It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Mike Gustafson. I'm Aaron Dickens. We're joining you today from the Overton Hotel and Conference Center, 2322 Mac Davis Lane. It's the official hotel of Tech Athletics and the official Lubbock hotel of the Texas Tech Alumni Center. You think? I mean, how many cities do you think that they have official hotels in, the Alumni Association? Like, is this just like Lubbock, Austin, Dallas, Houston, or are we getting like,
That's a good question. Would you have one in each Big 12?
Is there like an official Tech Alumni Association hotel in Del Rio?
Well, or
Plainview?
Everywhere that we're playing
Snyder?
A road football game,
Okay.
or in each Big 12 city? I don't know. That's a good question.
Either way, at the Overton tomorrow, they'll have Reckham Alley free in. Doesn't matter if you're staying here or not. They'll have live music, patio games, cash bar, all of your favorite game day foods, and much, much more. The party starts 3 hours prior to kickoff, so tomorrow that will be around 11:30. And then the fun will continue. Hopefully the fun will continue after the game as well. That's the Overton Hotel and Conference Center, 2322 Mac Davis Lane. We get this on the Yates Flooring Center chat line from Michael from the Ranch. It worked for Odell Higgins at Florida State. He's worked for 3 different coaches and was the interim head coach twice. Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, I think Odell Higgins, being carried over from the Jimbo Fisher era into the Willie Taggart era, into the Mike Norvell era, maybe a bit different than someone coming off of a stint under Scott Frost.
Yeah,
where
you might think clean house.
Because if Nebraska apparently won't pursue this candidate, but I mean, if they went after Urban Meyer, can you imagine them saying, "Hey, Urban, sorry. Hey, Urbs, sorry, dude. This is your receivers coach." No, you can't. I mean, what are you doing? You can't. I mean, like, it makes no sense to me that Nebraska would be, hey, first to market and have their vacancy done before anybody else, only to start throwing in all these strings and loopholes attached to their job. It's a very unserious thing to do, I think. And it's not. I mean, like, what does Mickey Joseph want to do? Quit?
Right.
Now, from what has been reported, Nebraska threw that in. It wasn't something that he asked for, and he. I mean, of course, he's not going to say no to that. I don't.
As sort of a thank you for doing this.
But this was entirely kind of driven by the Huskers. That does not make much sense to me. We will have a pair of tickets to give away to tomorrow's Texas Tech and Texas game. That opportunity coming up shortly, so just stay tuned for that. We will let you know. Is there one concern for you heading into tomorrow that ranks or rises above the rest?
Oh, you mean in terms of like a unit, like the DBs or the O-line or that what you're saying? Or
how about this? Let me rephrase.
Offense, defense, special teams.
That is a very big lamp. I have just now noticed how big that. It's a very proportionally it's a normal proportion.
Yeah.
If you shrink it down half size, it would look a bit more kind of.
In a big, high-roofed room hallway like this, it probably plays better than if it was in your living room. It would just be like it would dominate things.
What is that like?
It'd be like what is it? Stalactites come out of the ceiling and stalagmites come out of the floor. That would be like the chandelier version of a stalagmite. Which one's coming out of the floor?
Stalagmite come up from the floor.
There you go. That's the chandelier version of a stalagmite. Yeah.
You think?
And a huge lampshade just right in the middle of the floor.
Because it's not like just a really tall lamp with a normal size lampshade.
No,
the whole thing
oversized.
is just like been inflated.
But we probably got a 25-foot ceiling, so yeah, that probably helps. What was it?
How heavy do you think that is?
I don't know. Once you go lift it, tell me.
I mean, they have two, so if one breaks, I mean.
Yeah, just slide the other one to the middle of the table. Keep right on going. Well, just so I can process. What was it? Oh, you're a what?
Hey, how about this? What will tick you off? Like if when we fire up the show on Monday afternoon, 3:00, right? What kind of outcome? What kind of result? What kind of performance? Individual, group, team-wide, fans, whatever. What will stick in your craw the most if it happens?
Oh wow, that is painting with a broad brush. Say another poor special teams game. in a loss would probably be the thing that would have me like, come on.
Because that seems like the most controllable, right?
Yeah.
The most kind of under your control.
Yeah, because we talked about it. I think the special teams play can really be evaluated in one of three areas. You win it, you make a return, you block a punt, you do something big. You can lose it, get punts blocked, miss, get crap blocked, returns, all that stuff, where you play to a draw. And it feels like two of the three of these things are acceptable.
That's a good one. I think that I would be mad too.
Yeah.
Right? I think for me it's going to kind of go back to what we talked about a little bit earlier today, and that is if we roll up to the studio on Monday and we have to talk about a career game from Hudson Card, where he throws for like 4 touchdowns, when he has
420 yards,
when he has 6 total right now, I think that will be the hardest pill to swallow, because at that point it's just, it's just about the logo on the helmet more than anything else, because your defense has played really good so far this season. It's been actually very, very consistent.
It's a veteran group of defensive backs.
Veteran group.
Feels like we can get to this group, ought to be able to get to the quarterback better than we've been able to do in a while.
Against Texas, yes.
Yeah. With the best talented single player that we've had in that group across the defensive front in a long time. Now,
I would say the skill that you'll face on Saturday, the best that you will have faced so far this season, no doubt. Bijan Robinson is, if not the best, one of the best offensive skill players you'll face all season long. Worthy, the tight end. They have receivers. They have running backs.
Young offensive line. Big, talented, no doubt.
If you give a big number to Hudson Card, who's just not been that guy, that'll be a tough pill to swallow.
And remember, 2 weeks ago, the dude has an ankle sprain. He's playing. I'm not saying he's going to be limping around out there, but my hunch is that he's not 100%. So it's yet another reason why, it's yet another reason why I don't want to give up, big numbers.
You've been listening to the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3. Check out Double T973.com for more from Lubbock Sports Station.